All right, this is gonna be a full winter gear load up. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna start with the clothes I'd typically be wearing. Starting with this First Light sun hoodie right here. Merino wool, super comfortable, nice and thin, wicks the sweat away really efficiently. All right. Next we're going with the First Light boxer briefs, merino wool, very comfy. Next on the list is the Magnet Alpha Direct pants right here. This is the 190, I believe, thicker version. Next we got the Smart Wool Merino Buff. It's my thinner buff. Sometimes I use it on the top of my head, sometimes I use it over my face, just depending on what the weather's like. Next is this Under Armour fleece. I've been having this thing forever. It was just a cheap fleece, thin, zip up. Works as a nice mid layer. It's really nice to unzip all the way whenever you start heating up. 2 pairs of Fits socks, low quarter hiker, thin. I'm gonna use one for hiking and one for camping. I'm gonna go ahead and put the hiking ones on now. Alright, now I'm gonna start packing everything up just how I would on trail. Stick that in there first. Camp socks in. This pair of Icebreaker merino wool leggings. Don't use those too often. Next is the Sealskins waterproof socks. They're not really too waterproof, but they will keep your feet warm. 1 pair of woolly boxers. Goose boots from Goose Feet, I think. I had a pair previously, but they got hung up in a dryer in New York at Miss Susan's, I think. They didn't have enough fill in them to keep my feet warm, so I rarely used them anyways, but these have like double the fill, so they do a really good job at toasting up my feet quick. I don't usually put those on until after I have the sleep system already set up, so that's why they go in the bottom of the Nylafune. The next thing I'm gonna pack down in here is my sleep system, but first I'm gonna put my quilt into the bivvy so that when I unpack it at night, I don't have to worry about that step. This is a Sil Poly Catabatic Designs bivvy, the half moon bug net to breathe out of to stop the condensation from coming in. It's worked real well so far, and I'm looking forward to using it a lot more. And this is my 20-degree Enlighten quilt that I got back in 2020. It's still holding up really well and keeping me warm. Now, let's stuff this quilt bivvy down in here. All right. Quilt liner and the sleeping pad are all that's left for the sleep system. This quilt liner I got off Amazon for 20 bucks. It's just a thin Sil Poly quilt liner, cheap, gets the job done. I usually use it on the outside of the quilt when it's really cold to help keep some heat in. Like I said, typically I would pack this with the bivvy, but I just got a little sidetracked. Next is the sleeping pad, the new X-Therm Thermarest sleeping pad. It has an R value of like 6 or 7. It's the best thing, I believe, for really cold weather camping. Next thing to go is my Tyvek footprint. Still using this thing, Mr. Mike. Big thanks. Lay that down nice and flat. Food bag goes next. And moving right along, this is the Bora Gear Sil Poly tarp that Mr. Mike sent me back when I was in Pennsylvania, northbound Pennsylvania, I believe, maybe Virginia. Still using this thing, really appreciate it, man. Stick this right in between the food bag and the part that rests against my back. Make it nice and soft for me. Water bottles. Still using the UL Nalgene that I got back at Shaw's southbound. And I lost another water bladder, so I just started using a regular 1 liter smart water bottle as my bladder. For hiking shoes, I'm still using the Ultra Olympus 6s. Really like these shoes, really good for the rocks. This is the Cook system I'm still carrying, even though I haven't been using it lately. The homemade koozie I made a long time ago. Helps to keep the pot nice and hot after you boil. And this is the 1100 milliliter Tokes titanium pot. I like having that much room in case I want to cook that much food rather than having to boil water twice. Next are these camp shoes, just some cheap knockoff Crocs I've been using for a while. They're comfortable, lightweight, and they get the job done. Alright, this is the glove system. Start with the REI fleece liners. I love how they snap together right here to stop you from losing one or the other. I have some Icebreaker fingerless wool mitts. Miss Jane gave me these, who I was hiking with earlier this year. Miss Jane and Mr. Matt. Really appreciate it. These things are super warm. And finally, I have the Hightail Designs Dyneema mitts. I haven't had to use all 3 yet, but I'm expecting some cold weather, and I imagine there'll be a time when I can use all 3. These are really going to be particularly nice if it gets rainy and wet. Even if it's not rainy and wet, they'll really help to stop that wind chill from hitting my fingers. These Hightail Design Dyneema mitts are going to live right here in this side hip belt pocket, along with these fleece liners. The fingerless wool mitts are going to go right here. Right on top of the tarp. Okay, next we got 7 tent stakes. These are the DVC V-style tent stake. You can see that. I've hit a lot of rocks with these stakes and never had a problem, never had a bend. I recommend these 10 out of 10. Little Dyneema stuff sack right here I keep them in. And these live right here. Slide them down right next to this water bottle. I have 2 UL Nightcore headlamps, NU25 I think. I really like these headlamps and I definitely appreciate having 2 of them. These are gonna stay right down here with the Hightail Dyneema mitts and the fleece gloves. Time for the fanny pack. Have some Advil, some chapstick, Burt's Beeswax, 1 Bic lighter, SteriPen UL. Haven't used it much because it's been so cold and it's horrible at holding the battery when it gets cold. I have a Swiss Army knife I got at Shaw's. I love this thing, particularly the little scissors. I use them for cutting open my cheese packs so they're nice and clean. I'll keep that in the outside. I keep this little cord in here. I'm not sure why it doesn't go with my battery pack. This is my cord for the SteriPen UL. I also load this up with snacks. Wallet, almost forgot. Wallet sits in the left shoulder strap pocket. This blue blocker, polarized. Been wearing the same style sunglasses since I was like 16. Also have a little Dyneema sack for it to stop them from getting scratched up. These live in the front compartment of my right shoulder strap pocket where I keep my cell phone. This is my Appalachian Gear Co. alpaca wool hoodie. Absolutely love this thing. It's lightweight, it wicks moisture really well, and it keeps you really warm. Alright, got the Enlightened Equipment Torrent Puffy Jacket Synthetic. Love this thing. It's great for hiking. It's synthetic, so it's supposed to keep you warm even if it gets wet and dry out a lot quicker than down does. I use it a lot when I'm hiking and I know my back gets really sweaty and it does dry out really quickly. I don't really get nervous about that like I would if it was a down puffy jacket. Now typically in this winter weather I'd be wearing a lot more clothes than I'm wearing right now, so this pack's gonna be completely full by the time I get done. Obviously, if I thought it was gonna rain, I would put all these clothes down in my Nalafume bag next to my sleep system. This is the battery system. 4 Nitecore 10,000 milliamp battery banks, 3 cords assorted, 1 brick with 3 USB-C ports and 1 USB port. I'm not gonna pack these up right now because they still need to charge, but they would typically go in my food bag. This little sack is just what I keep the battery banks in. It's like a little felt bag just to give it a little bit extra protection, as well as this Ziploc bag. This is also where I keep my toenail clippers, just to, I guess, kind of separate them from the food. Because this is all going in my food bag. I have this Appalachian Gear Co. alpaca wool beanie. Really warm, really nice for sleeping when I need to keep my head warm. Got this buff from Gordon. It's not wool, it's not spandex. I'm not sure what it is, but it's really comfortable. It's a little bit thicker than the buff I have, so I interchange it with the black merino buff, depending on how hot it is. If it's really, you know, cold, then I'll keep this around my neck and my face and keep the black buff up here underneath the beanie. It just depends on like what the weather feels like and finding a layer-in system that's most comfortable. All right, this is my rain gear. My buddy Direction gave me these pants when I was at his spot in Mount Gretna. Mountain Hardwear rain pants. Basically the same pair I had, just like a few versions or years before mine. These have an extra pocket near the left knee and a lot less holes than mine had. So I really appreciate it, man. Big thanks. The rest of the rain gear consists of the Arc'teryx jacket I started with this year. This jacket is overpriced, even though I got an amazing deal at REI with the REI deals and, you know, coupons and whatnot. But I have to say, this piece of gear has lasted so well throughout this hike. It is the only piece of gear that is completely unscathed, not even a tiny rip. And I've used it, honestly, I've used it more than any other piece of gear, I think, excluding like shoes and packs. All right, last but not least, one Toaks titanium spoon. I love this thing. My toothbrush bag. Got some floss, a toothbrush, and some toothpaste. And some wet wipes. All they had were these feminine hygiene wet wipes last time. I do not recommend them. They are way too wet. They leave your butt way too wet for no reason. Better than nothing. Still rocking the shelter hat. Love this thing. And the Gossamer Gear 1/8 inch pad. If I had to do it again, I'd have a little Thermarest butt pad that folds up nice and neat. I rarely put this thing underneath the blow up pad. It ends up being just a sit pad, but gets the job done. Alright guys, that's the 24-25 winter gear list full load up. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more videos where you can see me using this gear through wintertime on the Appalachian Trail.